don't need to bring up the staff report. I forgot to print it out.
Well,
If you'd like, I can put the staff report on a shared screen. Hopefully, not sure. I'm at home, so I'm not sure if the internet is definitely slower than that.
Only if we need it, like to see pictures and stuff.
Okay.
I think I remember most of it, but
Okay. Well, I have them ready. I mean, I have all the pictures that that Richard sent too. So.
okay, good.
I can put the staff report. I'm on you. Sorry, I've got the YouTube on. I'm at home, so I'm not sure if the internet is definitely slower than. Okay. Well, we're live on YouTube.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Hi, Stuart. I see you there too. Hi, Stuart.
Howdy. Okay, we're getting close here. Amy, do we have connection? Is anybody watching our YouTube, just you, or is
Well, let's see. Let me put it on and then on my phone and mute it. Hold on. I looked at the Gmail. We don't have any public comments on this, at least in advance of the meeting.
okay, well, we're at 3:30, so if everybody's ready, I'll call this to order. Welcome to the Planning Commission special meeting for Friday, September 25th. And we are live on YouTube and we are ready to go here. Amy, could you please call roll call?
Yes. Okay. Chair Louders,
Here.
Vice Chair Van Zant,
Here.
Commissioner Oberholzer,
Here.
and Commissioner Schwartz.
Here.
And we have one vacancy.
Very good. And at this time, we are going to hear from the public. Are there any public comments regarding things we are not scheduled to talk about?
Nothing's on in my Gmail.
Right, that being the case, we will announce that if somebody wants to contact us with a comment, Amy, can you tell us the email address?
It is nevadacity.olson@gmail.gov. Sorry, gmail.com.
Gmail.com. So if anybody in the public wishes to comment and would like it to be read aloud, please email us at that address. That's nevadacity.olson@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay. Not having any public comment, we will move on to our only item on the agenda today. That's an architectural review for 200 Commercial Street. Amy, can you introduce the project?
Yes. Let me pull it up here. Okay, so at the September 17th, 2020 meeting, the Planning Commission heard a proposal by property owner Anthony Moranti to install a no-climb fence to prevent access to his roof from adjacent buildings. The commission continued the item in order to allow the applicant to provide a mock-up of the proposed fence. The fencing is proposed to be powder-coated and painted black and attached to the masonry parapet of the existing building. Project architect Richard Baker has installed the mock-up post showing options for height with yellow and red flagging. And I'm assuming that those are two different options. Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of revised it a little bit from our initial discussion, and I when I got up there and was actually standing on the roof, I felt like it would be sufficiently protective to have no more than a 4-foot fence rather than 5 or 6, which was what I kind of originally anticipated. And so I mocked up the top red flagging designates a 4-foot extension of the parapet, and the yellow flagging designates a 3-foot extension of the parapet.
Thank you. Richard, can you tell me, as I walked by and looked at it, there are 2 posts that I can see from the street. The one closest to Commercial Street and the one that's about 15 feet back. Can you describe to us what's the difference between those 2 posts?
Mainly, I just wanted to sort of express how visibly it kind of diminished from your site as it went back further. I just kind of wanted to give you some options for seeing what it might look like as it was going back. I don't know if you recall, but when I made the initial proposal, I was under the impression that the gap between the building with the pizza joint and the building that my client owns was great enough that it would dissuade a person from attempting to jump from one roof to the next. But I got up on the roofs, and I'm 53, and I just know that when I was 20, I would have done it. And so what I did was I put that that post closest to Commercial Street because I feel like there needs to be some protection from people jumping from roof to roof in that area. It's literally only probably 3.5 feet of a gap to jump from roof to roof. And I'm pretty certain that once you have had a couple of beers, you probably wouldn't be too concerned about jumping across that area.
Thank you. Amy, do we have any public comment at this point about this project? And you're muted.
Yep, no public comment.
No public comment. Seeing that we have no public comment, I'll bring that back to the table. And Peter, would you like to start?
I do, thank you. Let's see, so Richard, the new proposal is to bring the, whatever it ends up being, all the way out to the Commercial Street side?
That's right.
Okay. And are you okay, or does the owners think that the 3 foot will accomplish the safety issue, the jumping issue, as opposed to the 4?
I think it'll do enough to, dissuade the vast majority of people from coming across. I think if it's it depends on the type of fencing, Peter. I'm not entirely certain. I feel like 4 is the best number. I think that's kind of like the magic number in this situation. That I kind of brought it down from 6 to 5 to 4. 4 felt like it was the right number to me, both aesthetically and functionally. 3, I think, would work if, if the commission was like really uncomfortable with the idea of 4, but I think 4 is the optimal height.
Okay, and around the back, of course, it's going to have a wraparound also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see certainly, putting this on the entire parapet of the building. My goal would only be to put it in places where I felt like it was necessary, which is also the goal of the owner. We're not intending to, essentially wrap the entire building with this fencing. We just want to kind of put it in the places where we feel like it's most necessary to dissuade people from attempting to get on the building.
Okay, and I assume also that the pictures you supplied on the fence proposal, and we have an option of different tops.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to find fencing that maybe was a little less concerning for the commission, because it seemed like people were leaning pretty dramatically away from the initial fencing proposal that I had made. I did find another version of that kind of arcing fence that didn't arc quite as much. And so I put that in there as well. I put in one that was, I felt overly decorative. It acts as a no climb fence because it kind of has like a spike part way up that would be uncomfortable for someone on their foot if they were trying to, climb while they were trying to get over the top. But I personally feel like that one's a little too decorative. And then I did put in some other ones that just sort of offer, kind of spiky elements that you can put on a regular, just sort of a regular fence that that might be possibly the best way, just like kind of a standard sort of rectilinear fence with those kind of spiky elements added to it to kind of dissuade people. So I just wanted to give you some options to discuss.
Okay, appreciate that. Those are my questions for now, Stu. Thank you.
Very good. Nikaya, would you like to add?
Well, first, I'm curious, Amy, I'm looking at an email correspondence on the shared screen, and I'm wondering if we could have the photos of, unless that's just my computer. That's better. Now I see Stuart's face more. No, I kind of just want to see the fences again. The height seemed so much better when I walked around and tried to look at it from every possible angle. It's actually hard just to see up there in general. I stood everywhere I could imagine as far back as the Three Forks parking lot, and really it's not all that visible up there regardless, but the 3 or 4 foot height sure seems better. There they are.
There they are.
There they are. The only fence that I'm not wild, well, there's 2, is the shiny, super shiny, because they would be more visible, reflecting light, and the chain link, but the black ones seemed like they'd be pretty discreet from what I could tell on the street.
I'll just clarify that anything that we put up there would be painted black.
Okay.
I just couldn't find options for those spiky elements that are added to a fence that were in black already, but we would make sure that they were painted black.
I did look also just a little searching myself to see what no climb fences, there just aren't that many options for no climb fences out there in the world.
Okay.
But Richard, you're saying that 3 feet would do it?
I think 3 feet would work. I don't think it would be the optimal choice. I think the
Okay.
4 foot fence is actually the optimal choice.
Okay.
And obviously better than 5 and better than 6, which was the original proposal. When I got up on the roof and I started holding up the pieces of PVC that I had brought with me to, do the mock-up, I recognized pretty quickly that 5 and 6 just felt over. It was like just too much. It wasn't necessary for it to be that high.
Okay. I don't have any other questions at this time or comments.
Great, thank you. And Lori,
Well, I took a good look at it and ran into one of the neighbors while I was on the back parking lot behind the old title company. When I was looking at the area with the gap, I just didn't think that that's where people are coming from. There would have been dents on the metal roof to the right, uphill. And you have to jump across that gap and balance on the parapet. And then the roof, is actually 1.5 foot down. It goes like that. And so there's that, whole issue of you could then fall down from there. You're not just landing on a roof. It's a true parapet that's 1.5 feet above the actual flat roof of the old post office building. So my feeling is just that that's not where people are coming from. I think they're coming from down at the little portico that's, the back door of the old post office down by their little 2-car parking area. And to me, it seems like it would be better just to concentrate on that area and see how it works. And then maybe you won't have people coming up there anymore. I did talk to one of the neighbors who said that, she had never experienced this and was shocked to hear that it was happening, and that she thought she would have heard people on her roof. She lives in the upstairs unit next door, and she would have heard it, or she would have, the gutter would have been, wiggled at, or there would have been some damage to that old metal roof that's on top of her place. And so I think that was a pretty good indication that that's not where the traffic is coming from. She also noted that the graffiti that's up there, which is certainly evidence that people have been up there, has been up there for a long time, for years. So it's not, that isn't necessarily recent activity anyway. I think the 3 feet is still really high. I think it's quite visible from when you're, right down in front of the building on Commercial Street. It's quite visible, both the further out and then the halfway in location. I just don't think it will look logical on top of this building, and I don't really think it's necessary. One thing I thought about was if you really feel like you have to put something between the two buildings or to keep you from jumping from the one building onto the parapet over the gap, that maybe there's a way to do an aesthetically pleasing little, just a little regular A-frame roof thing spanning the gap. And it could be made out of canvas, so it would look like kind of an awning kind of a thing, or a very, very, very lightweight lattice work, so that the jumper couldn't get over it, but the jumper couldn't climb over it because it would be so obvious that the whole thing would just collapse if he or she got on it. That might be a kind of an aesthetically pleasing, more logical thing for that gap area. And you could probably even create something like that on the back also. Again, nobody's going to want to crawl up something because they can't jump over it and fall through it. So it would have to be something inexpensive and lightweight. So I don't know, I just can't get over what it'll be really visible from Main Street. It'll be quite visible from Commercial, particularly when you're right on Commercial Street and not back in the parking lot. So I'm still having real problems with it as a new element in the historical district. And yeah.
So I have some thoughts as well. And Peter, I'll get back to you as soon as I speak.
Okay.
So I stood on Commercial Street and looked at the back post and counted off 10.5 feet. I could see, if I was staring at the back of the alley from opposite the street, which of course no one does, if I was in front of the exit of the Forks and looked across the street, I could walk 3 paces, so about 10 feet, and see the post as it was placed. The front post I can see, and that's fine. I do believe the neighbors I believe the applicant has the right to safety and security in their building without question. And I will tell you guys now, if we don't send a message to the city attorney addressing, asking her to address a public nuisance and work with the city police on trying to work with the property owners to eliminate public nuisance, then this unfortunate need will have all been for naught. It really needs to be a complete application that has that public nuisance factor included. And I will not vote for this unless there is a public nuisance feature included that will address the public, that will address our city attorney. So just so you know, I can't imagine anybody, a single visitor, staring at the building, staring at the alleyway from across the street. It's such a nothing. And we have uncomfortably already included some pretty modern things on Commercial Street, including that, let's just call it lighting that hangs across the street, which is completely out of place as far as I'm concerned, and the continued use of Christmas lights during the entire year, which are not addressed, which bug me to heck. I'm not overly concerned about this particular fence as being any more distracting than those lights, which bug me. And the building itself doesn't look historic. It's pretty modern looking. I'm not terribly concerned about one row of fencing. And those are my thoughts at this point. And Peter?
Yeah, when I was over on Commercial Street and I was walking up to get a look at the gap, I was looking down. there's a curve there, and right now there's, that whole restaurant, temporary restaurant thing. But I got to the Gap, and I really had to look up to see it. And I had in mind the Victorian fence. So it wasn't offensive to me that I think if you looked up, you see fences at the top of Victorian houses, that sort of thing. I didn't see it as outstanding. I think you'd have to look for it. And I'm not sure people are going to go, oh, that's really horrible. No, they're going to find, they're going to be looking for restaurants and stuff like that. So, and the 3 foot, I think, almost comes to look like it's part of the original design. If it's Victorian, I guess we got to decide what the top would look like. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
Lori,
So I think if you wanted, I think we're charged in the historical district to certainly make things look like they were originally part of the building. And I think if you were going to do that, that the thing that would work would be a 6-inch or a 12-inch Victorian looking, kind of like the surrounds around a widow's walk, that would go all the way around the top of the parapet. So it would be a real feature, but it would be short enough that it wouldn't be out of scale with what you would have done with a feature like that. And it could have, little pointy tops like they do on the widow walks. I know that Richard said he thought that might, maim somebody. I think it would keep people from jumping. And I think that the taller, the 3 foot or the 4 foot one, could still, I think it's just as dangerous. So, I mean, I would support that if we went to a 6-inch or a 1 foot widow's walk kind of thing, Victorian widow's walk look that would look in scale with the building. And I really, Stuart, like the idea of tying this whole thing to, working with on the public nuisance issue. I'd kind of, wish we could just do that first and then, come back if that doesn't work. But anyway, I like that aspect of it, but I can't support it unless it's, no taller than a foot and becomes an intentional looking feature, not an after the fact kind of look. That's something that we don't see anywhere else on top of a Victorian building or
we're talking about crest rail, basically. Is that the architectural term?
oh, it has a term. Good.
Crest rail.
Stuart, can I make a kind of a response? I'm just kind of curious.
Sure.
Is that okay? So number one, this isn't a Victorian building. It's
Yeah,
nowhere
I
near a
shouldn't have
Victorian
said
building.
that,
It was
sorry.
built in like the 1940s or something like that. I mean, it's probably, I think it's probably 70 years, post-Victorian. So I don't see how we're somehow suddenly adding Victorian elements to a building that was built in the 1940s. So that alone just seems like an odd concept entirely to me.
Well, you
And
could use something simpler.
separately, the comment about the public nuisance piece, I think it's great that that the commission would like to discuss the fact that there has been issues with this building with the city attorney and the police department, but they should know about it. They've been called on many, many occasions, and none of that's worked so far. So that's why we're doing this, is because they have records of multiple occasions where they've called and told the police department that there were people on the roof or that there was damage to the roof and all of that, and none of that has made any substantive effect on this occurring. And then thirdly, there are many sort of records of people going from the roof of the building that has the pizza joint and the bar below, the Crazy Horse, and coming onto the roof from there. So the concept that nobody's doing that also is just not the truth either. So I think that we need to make sure that I'm being clear that we have records of people jumping onto the roof from the other roof. We have records of people walking onto the roof from the other roof. We have fewer records of people climbing up onto the roof from that small roof that Commissioner Oberholzer was saying was the main location where people were accessing it.
Thanks, Richard.
Yep.
So we have a complex issue. We have complex issue here. Is there any possibility that this installation could be considered temporary? Could
Like try
we
something out and see what it looks like before.
see what it looks like and
Before
see
we
how
go further.
effective, yeah, how effective it is. And if it's effective, maybe we could consider it, reconsider, we could look at it, we could experience it, we could get feedback, we could
Yeah.
potentially make it permanent. And if there's some additional action by the adjacent property owners, maybe it could go away at some point. Is that something outside the realm of possibility? And I'm
Yeah,
asking both
I don't
commissioners
know.
and applicant. So,
I can't really I can't really answer that question for my client, but that seems a little out of the norm. But yeah, I'm not sure. I I get that this is a complicated issue. I believe me, I'm not entirely certain how to present it because I think it is complicated, but the way that I've presented it, I feel like is the most kind of presentable within the context of the building, within the context of the downtown. And, I attempted initially to choose a material that would be less noticeable. I think that, like I don't know if Amy can show the fencing that I sort of presented that is a little more decorative, that's got kind of like, it's straight, it's got spikes and swirls and stuff like that. And it was a little more, kind of on the Victorian side. I feel like that one, the one that's kind of in the center there, would be even more noticeable than if you were to scroll down, Amy, to the one that is just sort of like that modest kind of looping edge that, like that one right there at the bottom, that I feel like that one, you imagine that fence right there is probably, it's taller than 6 feet. So imagine the fence that's going to be on, that I'm proposing is close to half the height of that fence. And you're really only going to see maybe, like you were mentioning, Stuart, like 6 or 8 feet of it as you're walking by it on Commercial Street. I just don't feel like it's going to be something that really stands out. And when it's painted black and, well above your sort of general gaze, I don't see it as being something that's going to be, visibly, deleterious to the sort of general aesthetic of the downtown, frankly.
yeah, Lori.
Just on that issue, I'm not for any of them. So, but I think you should, if we're going to choose one, it should be the one that is the least visible and the least heavy looking. And I think this one looks heavier than the sort of Victorian looking one. And certainly as viewed from Main Street, you're going to get a really good view of whatever gets put up. We care about the view from Main Street. We want to make things look better, not worse. And so I think that, I think this one is airier if you're going to go that route. I'm
Peter.
still going to vote against any of them. So
I agree with Lori's non-compliance, non-vote. The Victorian, it's a 1940s building, but it is brick. And looking up, I think we've already decided that it's not a major architectural feature. I would stick with the 3-foot one. I don't know what we're going to put on top. I'm looking at the fence now. I'm at 3 foot. It would not be ugly. I think the other one, Richard, I would go back to my prison look comments from the last time we did this with the hook. So,
Right.
So we're going to decide if we're going to start chiming in. I'm okay with 3 foot and that Victorian fence. I guess we'd have to cover the whole alley, and I'd like to get some definition of how much it was gonna wrap around.
So when Peter, when you went to the site, did you walk on the Main Street side of the building as well?
Yes,
Did you see the post that was essentially above on the wall where the garbage can enclosure is?
yes,
I see this fence going from that post around like towards the Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
And then all the way around the edge of the building to the end of the alleyway.
that was my question.
Yeah, I think that's, and the only reason there could be a section that's a small gap that it's not necessary on the side that faces the old, the building that Lori was mentioning previously. I forgot the term for a title company building. Sorry, that there could be a section of probably 8 to 10 feet there where we didn't need the fencing, because I think that there's really no way for anybody to get up from that place. So if the commission wanted us to limit the amount of it, I could limit it to just the areas where I feel like it's really, very accessible. And so that would leave like a gap of, 8 feet or something on that side. But every place else, it kind of needs it all the way to the commercial street edge of the roof.
Okay, there we are.
Yeah. So if you look,
Is that the red?
essentially that's the zigzag. I mean, it just sort of has to make its way around that whole kind of roof, because otherwise people are just going to get up there.
So that means the majority view of from Main Street we would see the fence in the corner, basically.
Well, yeah, the only place you would see it would be in the corner. And frankly, I think that big Atlas cedar tree really blocks most of your view of it, frankly.
I agree.
Visible when you're standing out on Main Street. I mean, I made a point of standing out on the sidewalk on Main Street when you're closer to the title company and you're looking straight through the parking lot, and I just thought it was really quite visible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
I stand where I am at this point.
Okay. Nakaya, do you have some additional thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way as I did initially. I really don't think it's visible. And I did walk around there and look from every point I could. So I don't have an issue with it aesthetically, regardless of which fence. To me, the scrolly fence looks more like a decorative feature and in some way would seem more appealing to the eye than just the one that Peter, you said looks like a prison fence. I mean, it's almost regardless to me. I don't feel like either one is terribly visible. But I would actually lean towards the one with the curve. But really the issue to me that's more important is public safety in this case, and giving the applicant what they need in terms of protecting their building from, injury and people getting hurt. And so I'm just inclined to go with the fence that is the safest, not a shorter fence, one that you actually can't scale or get hurt on. So that's where I'm at.
So you're leaning towards the 4 foot?
I don't, 3 or 4, I mean, it's, it's a foot. I don't know that extra foot really bothers me one way or the other. I think whatever is the safest is what I'm inclined to go with.
That's why I asked the question about 3 foot being, obviously 6 foot is better, 5 foot is better, 4 foot is better. But if 3 foot is adequate, I think it's more in scale with the building. That's my aesthetic opinion.
Yeah, if that's sufficient and it would get us all to go move forward with this, then yeah.
And Lori, do you have any additional thoughts?
No.
Okay. All right. So this is very interesting, since the comments are also well considered. And boy, I sure appreciate everybody's opinion. Appreciate your deep thoughts on this. So what do we have? We have 3 or 4 feet. We have the curved fence or the Victorian fence. We have the proposed location without any option on that. Have I got that about right? I think I do. Okay. So,
Can I just make one last comment,
sure, Richard.
sir?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to break in, but I would just like to go on record as saying that I do believe that the 4-foot fence is the best, safest version. I offered the 3-foot fence because I felt like it was sort of respectful of the commission's concern for the aesthetics of the thing. I do not feel like it's going to be the safest, most protective choice for the height. I think that at 3 feet, a person could potentially almost sort of like figure out a way to kind of like lift their leg over it for the most part. You know what I mean? It's like it's at the height where it seems like it could, like a person could make their way over it more easily than at 4 feet.
Okay.
And that's
No.
the last thing I'll say. I apologize for breaking into your comment.
No, it's again, well considered, and we all appreciate the need for security in a building and for people not causing vandalism, whether it be 10 years ago or 1 year ago or 1 week ago. We don't want people getting hurt, getting over a fence. We don't want people getting hurt, breaking glass in skylights. We don't want property owners being put at risk for allowing a hazard to continue. So what do we have? How about if we come up with a motion to approve the fence as the proposal as presented at 4 feet and using the Victorian sort of decorative scrolly thing style fence. Sorry, I don't have a technical term for it. And in the to be installed in the areas as proposed in the red line drawing. Could we work with something like that?
The only thing that I'd like to say is I don't feel like the red line drawing is is precise enough for you know.
Okay,
I'd like to maybe work with Amy to or however you want to do that. But basically, I think what I'd like for it to say is sort of like the easternmost, northeasternmost post that's on the Main Street side to the end of the alleyway at Commercial Street. I think that's a better description. I don't think that the red line drawing actually properly describes that whole area.
So does it close up the gap another 4 or 5 feet? I'm trying to.
Yeah, it just sort of, it goes from the area of the little roof that Commissioner Oberholzer mentioned earlier, kind of all the way around the edge of the roof over to the end of the parapet at the Commercial Street side. It's pretty zigzaggy, so it's kind of hard to describe, but I think that that's the best description for it.
And I'd probably suggest we have a liaison if you guys go with this motion.
okay. So I'm going to propose a second motion as well after this, just to include messaging the city attorney as well on this project and what we'd like to do.
Okay.
So
I'll move the motion that Stu proposed.
With the locational amendment as indicated by Richard?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So we have a motion. Would anybody second?
I will second that.
So Amy, can we have a final reading of what the motion is specifically?
Let me give that a shot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so a motion to install the Victorian style fence as presented in the staff report at a 4-foot height per the red line drawing, but with amendments as from the northeast post on Main Street to the post at the corner of Commercial and I don't know how else to describe it. I guess that's would that be
The end of the alleyway at Commercial Street
end of the alley? Okay. End of the alley.
on the south side of the building.
And Nakaya, did I see you, were you trying to ask
I
a
was saying
question?
goodbye to my child.
Okay.
Sorry.
Also
Trying to
good.
be
Yes.
discreet here.
All right. Is there any way we can make this a little more acceptable, or are we ready to? We've got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor? Aye.
I
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that one passes 3-1.
And do we want to do a liaison since we don't have we'll probably have a little bit of reworking of the exact location?
Sure. Would anybody like to, would anybody like to volunteer as a liaison?
I'll do it,
Thank you, Peter.
unless Nakaya wants to do it.
go for it, Peter.
I'd like to make a second
I'll take
motion.
that as a motion.
I'd like to have I'd like to make a second motion that we encourage the city attorney to contact local adjacent property owners about a potential public nuisance. And they're, I don't know whether we want to say ignoring it or promulgating it or participating in it unintentionally. But if they could, the city attorney could address the issue with the property owners, something like that. And we'll leave it to the city attorney to formate the right language.
And that's fine. That can just be staff direction. I don't know that I need that in a formal motion. I can follow up right after this with Chrissy.
Don't
And
need a
that would be contacting them by mail or face to face with, I assume it's mail, but
probably a letter, I suppose.
Okay.
Probably, I wanted to find out, what we should be doing as a city. Make sure it's even appropriate for us to be doing that. It may very well be. I just want, I think I'll have to I'll let her know what the commission's concern is here, and I'll relay to you any advice that she has about how we should address it.
Thank you. We realize that if she contacts the city police, we realize that we can't park a police officer out there 24/7 and make sure that's not going to happen. We know that we don't have that kind of resources, but surely everyone can be a better neighbor if possible.
Can I ask one quick question and just make another note? When I was up there on the roof, I was noting that tree, that Atlas cedar is very messy. And there's two limbs, pretty significant limbs that, kind of extend from the tree and kind of go over the building. And I was making a recommendation to the owner that they might want to consider doing some maintenance on that tree and removing a couple of limbs. Is there a process for trimming a tree, or is it only for removing a tree?
Yeah, I mean, the ordinance does discuss limbing a tree, and as long as you're not limbing it in a manner that's going to kill it, then you can limit. Yeah.
Okay, because these limbs are, literally this big.
Yeah.
They're really big. I mean, that's a very old, very mature tree, but it will be noticeable, when they are taken. So should I work with the city to just kind of make you aware of which limbs we want to remove and kind of get a sense of what that might look like? Or how do you want to, maybe I'll work
Sure,
with Peter during the time of this or something?
You can work with me. I'll have to look at exactly what the language says, but I know I've dealt with this issue on a few other occasions, and
Okay.
You can limit, but we can take a look at the ordinance together. You can just work directly with me.
Okay, and then I just want the commission to also be aware, it was brought up at the last meeting. It might have been Commissioner Oberholzer that mentioned that there's that sort of gambrel shaped garbage can enclosure that's on the kind of Main Street side. I made the recommendation that we remove that also from the property. I just think it's really unattractive. It's actually really like kind of starting to fall apart. And so I'm going to be working with the owner to come up with a better location or, element for protecting their garbage cans on that property, and hopefully be removing that small building, in the coming months, just so you're aware.
Great. Thank you, Richard.
Mhm.
So,
Can I say something?
sure.
On the tree issue, I would really appreciate it if you would work with Amy on the limbing, and it's consistent with the ordinance. Atlas cedars are kind of a sensitive thing right now, and we would want to, maybe in this instance, it would be good to have an arborist report to make sure that, taking a limb of that size would not harm this particular tree. And, obviously you want to do it in an aesthetically pleasing way because it's a cool tree.
I was going to recommend that we discuss it with Arrow Acton. So, and I think that the city likes to work with him as well. So I wouldn't just go there with my little home light and take that limb off, because I know that is a very, sensitive tree and in a sensitive area. And I agree with you. It's a beautiful specimen. So I wouldn't want to screw it up, but it is, there's at least, I don't know, maybe 8 inches of leaf waste on that roof, kind of near where that limb, and it could potentially cause some problems with that roofing material over time. So I'd like to work with them to try and mitigate that.
And that trash can structure, I didn't realize that's what it was. I thought it was like an aviary or something.
No, it's just some cruddy trash can structure that somebody built like 25 years ago or something, and it's falling apart.
To me, it looked like a way that maybe somebody could jump onto that and then onto the little roof overhang.
I think it is.
But
I think it could be, and that's also one of the reasons why I'd like to remove it. I'd like to remove that potential, access point.
Yeah, that looked like a real easy way to get up there to me.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
think we have beaten this horse to death, so to speak. Thanks, Richard, for your patience and your willingness to work with us. We appreciate it very much.
No worries. Thank you.
Richard,
Yes, I'm still here.
you've got my email probably on this train. You want to email me and we can exchange numbers?
Actually, maybe if Amy could send me your email, that would be great, because I'm not sure I do have it, but I know where you are.
Peter@petervanzant.com.
Perfect. Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Now the world knows about it.
Yeah, right. And everyone should.
World, I'm sure, is watching.
Yeah, right.
So Amy, do we have any additional public comments that have come in?
Let me just check. Nope.
Okay. That being said, our next regular meeting is October 15th, 2020. And at this point, if there are no additional announcements, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved 4-1. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Oh, and thank you so much for being flexible with me.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
a-
I forgot the first one anyway, so.
Well,
So do I.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
There wouldn't have been a quorum. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.